I've clicked onto the Global Tropical RB for January the 12th, 2024. As is always the case in these videos, the flood pressure are mine alone, and when making decisions ahead of any tropical cyclones, look towards your local weather office, local emergency management, and local tropical cyclone warning center. We've got a few systems still active in the tropics today, but this video is going to be focusing only on Invest 97S or Disturbance 2 by Meteo France, as the system is now becoming more of a significant threat to Mauritius and La Reunion as we go throughout the weekend and into next week. Now, as of right now, the system is not a tropical cyclone. It is certainly getting there. It is developing right now. You can see in the infrared loop, we have a lot more convection blowing up over what appears to be a developing area of low pressure. If you look in this part of the map, and you may have to focus your eyes a little bit there to see it, but there is some semblance of westerly winds on the northern side of the system. And again, here on the eastern side, you have to focus it, but there is a semblance of northerly flow on the eastern side of this, turning more into easterly winds on the south side. Now, there's also likely some southerly winds on the western side of this low. We can see that in an ASCAP pass that we got earlier today. You can see there's those westerly winds turning into easterly winds on the south side with some westerly winds on the west side of it. And there's the center of the developing low. So that's likely there underneath the convection. Now, exactly how well developed has this low gotten since the ASCAP pass, which was about like 6 hours ago? Not exactly sure. There is some signs that it has gotten a bit better developed. This is a vorticity map. This is the low-level vorticity or spin plot across the Indian Ocean. And focus here, this is where our disturbance is, and you can see more dark orange colors showing up here. That's indicative of more spin or vorticity being concentrated near that center of circulation. Looks like a better development since that ASCAP pass. Alongside that, if you pay attention to the convection, pay attention to this part here, you'll see that at times it looks like the convection is curling around an area of low pressure. So at times you've got convection wrapping towards the southeast, and at times you've got convection wrapping towards the northwest. And this might also be indicative of a more compact and well-defined area of low pressure developing down at the surface. And this development is going to continue over the coming days, and we're likely to see development here into a tropical cyclone, I'd say within the next day or two. Assuming that this area of low pressure is as developed as it looks on satellite and with other tools, this thing is probably getting somewhat close to being a tropical storm, or at least tropical depression. Now, we will have an ASCAP pass later tonight, in a few hours after this video. That will tell more of a story of what's going on beneath the cloud layer. But either way, this system is developing, and like I said at the beginning, confidence is increasing that this system will be a significant threat to Mauritius and La Reunion later this weekend and into next week. Now, this is a water vapor loop of the system. Right now, you can see all the convection blowing up over that area of low pressure. We do have some outflow channels opening up. We've got some upper level cirrus spanning southeast of the system, and some as well spanning northwest of the system. Now, the system does have a little bit of shear on it. There is a little bit of an upper trough here west of Reunion, and you can see some of these convection or convective bursts east of Madagascar. All the thunderstorms are getting their top sheared off towards the east, and that's putting likely a little bit of pressure upon the storm right now, but at least from satellite imagery, it doesn't look like it's inhibiting it, so it may just be more putting pressure on the storm, but not overwhelming it. And that's probably going to be the story for the wind shear as the system does come south. There will always be some form of shear with the system. It looks like, and I'll show you that in the GFS model in just a moment, but the shear is not likely to be overwhelming. And unfortunately, as the system does come south, we're going to likely get a very strong poleward outflow channel. That's wind streaming towards the south as the system is reaching the islands of Mauritius and La Reunion. And we've seen that several times before in tropical cyclones, and I've talked about it several times in my videos, that those type of patterns can be dangerous. They can be volatile for, the potential of quick to rapid intensification. I'm going to show you the HAFS model. This is one of the hurricane models. I believe this is going to eventually take over for models like the H-WRF and the H-MON. But you can see the pattern right now. There's your small upper trough there over Reunion, and you can see some of the westerly winds on the storm. The storm is positioned right about here right now, and you can sort of see how the environment is already fairly favorable without this trough here. We've got those streaming southeasterly winds aloft and winds streaming to the northwest, north of the storm. And as we go in time, you'll see the upper level pattern become even more favorable. This northerly flow aloft stays. And as we get the storm to come south, a little bit of a trough digging in here, southeast of Madagascar. We've got these enhanced winds showing up southeast of the storm. And as this outflow begins to push further south as the storm comes south, it is going to push to meet with those enhanced winds. And eventually, here's a storm now approaching La Reunion or Mauritius. There is still a little bit of track uncertainty on exactly how far east or west, but either way, as it starts to come south, that outflow is now meeting up with this strong jet streak taking shape, and that allows a very strong poleward outflow channel to take shape. And these colors, it may not seem too strong based on these colors, but this is winds moving at about 90 to 100 knots. That's about what I think about 100 to 110 miles per hour, maybe 115 miles per hour. So very strong winds moving away from the storm. And this is certainly favorable enough to get a good poleward outflow channel. You can also see the flow curling back on the eastern side of the storm to meet up with the equatorward outflow channel. So we sort of have this dual outflow channel setup going for the storm. And unfortunately, the sea surface temperatures are also really not an issue for the system. You can see they're very warm, as you would expect this time of year, as we are getting towards peak season in the southern hemisphere. So really, all things are go for this system to intensify. Now, the only thing really to stop this system potentially is itself. If the system does struggle a bit internally, we could see the system maybe get held back a little bit, but there won't be a lot of forces trying to stop that. We won't have a lot of dry air, and you can see that in the relative humidity. All the dry air is to the south, and it's got this nice moisture bubble surrounding it. I suppose it is possible that some of this dry air tries to get entrained into the circulation just by the natural circulation of the low pressure. But that's not really modeled too well in forecast right now. And alongside that, like I said, the shear is not likely to be too strong. Now, something to note with this jet streak, oftentimes in these jet streaks, what we'll see is because you have all of this strong flow in the outflow channel, you can often negate some of the impacts of wind shear. So I can show you this on the GFS. As the system comes south on this plot, there might be some shear. You can see the winds are fairly light, so we don't have a lot of screaming mid-level or upper-level winds to tear the system apart. They're very weak, but there is some wind shifts here throughout the troposphere, and that may cause a little bit of shear. You can see max shear values of about 13 knots. This shear may be negated quite well by this outflow channel. Now, even if somehow this, say this jet streak wasn't here, say just this forecast was different and this jet streak was not here, this shear alone would not be able to really disrupt the system. 13 knots, a system that's well developed like this would be, would not really be able to overwhelm the system, but could put some pressure onto it. But with this jet streak here, it could negate some of the wind shear impacts shown in that sounding there from the GFS. So the key messages here are the system is developing now. We are seeing tropical cyclone development take shape, and the environment ahead of the storm is very favorable. As I talked about, low shear and not a lot of dry air. And the wind shear, if there is going to be any, which there is some depicted in these soundings here, like I showed you, it's not likely to be inhibitive. It will likely put some pressure upon the storm, like the shear that we have right now. But similar to how the system is developing right now, it's just getting a little bit of pressure. It's not being overwhelmed. And now we're having lots of models come in and agree on the chance of a significant storm here. Exactly how strong We'll talk about that in a little bit. The exact specifics are a little bit uncertain right now, but you can see on the forecast from Meteo France right now, they forecast the system getting to a cyclone, and I believe that is, I forget what the legend is. That is an intense tropical cyclone on their scale. So, intense storm coming through on their forecast. Now, right now, the forecast does come right through Mauritius. As I said earlier, there is still some track uncertainty on exactly how far east or west it is. So, for those in La Réunion, you certainly should not just ignore the system just because the forecast right now is going right through Mauritius. Case in point, here's one of the models right now showing the storm getting extremely close to the island here. And that's just really something we're going to have to watch exactly how far east or west it is. And for Rodriguez as well, I talked about this yesterday, the southeastward bend in track. Keep in mind that even though you're still pretty far away from the center track, as the system does come south, it will be likely beginning a transition into a non-tropical cyclone. And as that happens, the systems tend to enlarge. And as the system does come towards the southeast, you may still have some impacts. Now, the good news is the likelihood of you getting a direct hit from an intense cyclone are very low here. I'd say that potential has really been, I guess the door on that idea has been closed overall. There is still, I guess, some potential with this forecast cone showing it here, but I'd say the most likely scenario today is Mauritius and La Réunion taking the direct hit here. But you can see after the system does come through the islands, it starts to weaken as it heads further southeast. And I believe they do have times on here. I don't think they do. I wanted to get the timing here for when the system actually comes through. As we're looking at late this weekend or early next week. So Sunday to Monday and Tuesday for Mauritius and La Réunion. You can see that on the model here. You can see by Sunday the storm is on its final approach and it comes right through on Monday morning. It looks like local time. And here's a GFS just for comparison. And we've got maybe a little bit later timing, but that's still about Monday as the system comes through. So it looks like the time frame here is looking to be Sunday for the initial time of arrival for tropical storm force winds. That means that today and Saturday are your last days to prepare for this system. So when you wake up this morning and you're looking at the forecasts, take today and tomorrow to get your preparations finalized. You need to make sure you have your cyclone preparedness kit ready, and you need to stay tuned to your local weather office. I will leave links to Meteo France and the Mauritius Meteorological Service down in the description at the top, so you can just click that and go right to it, and listen to your local emergency management as well, as they're going to have the best information ahead of this storm. But the event is getting closer here. Like I said, Sunday to Monday is when the system is forecast to come through, and unfortunately, it may be a fairly significant storm when it does come through. But that's it for now. I will have future videos on the storm throughout the weekend. Assuming I can, there is potential for power outages here with a storm coming through my region tomorrow. So if I'm not able to get a video out, I do apologize. I'll put updates on my Twitter page or X page if you want to see updates there. But either way, like I said, Mauritius and La Réunion, make sure preparations are being finalized over these next couple of days as the system approaches, and stay safe ahead of the storm. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching.